this is way worse than we thought it was as fans. I mean, sure, it was a couple of guys that might not have been in the lineup. Yes, there were a couple of guys that might have had some injuries, but we still had people to plug in. As a matter of fact, the Atlanta Hawks even went down to the G League and even brought up guys to even fill in for some of the injured players that we have. But now it is starting to look bad and it's starting to get worse for the Atlanta Hawks. But before we get into that, what's going on, everybody? My name is Walter Pollard, and this is Atlanta Hawks Digest. I definitely appreciate you guys for stepping in and chopping it up with us today. We got to go ahead and get to a game review, and we got to talk about what's going on with the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to try to make some sense out of what's going on with the Atlanta Hawks right now. Of course, this is a tough week, okay? Took a loss to the New York Knicks in New York on Martin Luther King Day. Yeah, we came back home, lost to the Pistons. After the Pistons, you lost to the Toronto Raptors, and then lost to the Toronto Raptors again in a weird little back-to-back or whatnot. And the Atlanta Hawks right now are dealing with just a mountain of different things that a team can deal with, especially leading into the trade deadline. But before I get into all of that, I definitely want to stop and just thank everybody, who has definitely took the time out to listen to the page and view the page and see the content. Also, major shouts out to my partner, Chris Tipmore, man. He's definitely stepped up in a major way. Let's give him a round of applause because, hey, major shouts out to him. Appreciate you, my guy. But definitely out of the 91% of you guys that are not subscribers, we definitely want to try to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Definitely want to shoot that up as much as possible, and we can definitely get this page rocking because we definitely got to get into it. Now, tonight was a tough night. Again, the Atlanta Hawks, they took a loss to the Toronto Raptors, 117-94. And this was, I really feel like this had to have been a low point for the team. I feel as though this had to have been a low point for the team, a low point just in general for the Atlanta Hawks in the Atlanta area. Yes, the season started off in a certain way. Yes, the season started off where we did have some guys on injury, and there was a time that they could possibly be missing for a good amount of time. I mean, DeAndre Hunter, he missed I think it was 11 or 12 games at the beginning of the season. So the Atlanta Hawks had to find a way to win without him. Of course, there were other players that the Atlanta Hawks did not have at their disposal at the beginning of the season, for sure. But with that, we thought that the Atlanta Hawks were able to deal with it. And if it were to come up again, air quote, the injury bug, if the Atlanta Hawks were to be dealing with the injury bug again, that they'd be able to deal with it. And unfortunately, in my opinion, I feel like it is getting worse and worse and worse. Tonight's game versus the Toronto Raptors. Let's go ahead and get some. Let's get the stats up. Matter of fact, let me put up just a little bit more. If you can see it, you can read it. Definitely look at it really quickly. But 22 turnovers. 22 turnovers was. Oh my goodness, 22 turnovers for the Atlanta Hawks versus the Raptors. Again, 11 turnovers alone for Trae Young. My goodness, that was tough. 39% shooting from the field, 30% shooting from three-point land. I mean, that was disgusting. Respectfully, that just wasn't what the Atlanta Hawks wanted to do. Yes, we had multiple guys in double figures, but not a lot of production off of the bench with the Atlanta Hawks. And again, Trae Young with 11 turnovers, I think 14 points. Your high man for tonight was Vit Krejci with 20, I think it was 20 points. And, after that was Onyeka Okongwu. So not only were the Hawks outplayed in this, just completely outplayed, the Toronto Raptors had a few guys that definitely stepped up. Scotty Barnes, he definitely stepped up for the Raptors. And I just have to say, shouts out to Ben. Ben is definitely, if you guys definitely watch the Raptors Digest, you definitely know that Ben has definitely been going hard right now, especially with the fact that the Toronto Raptors have come to Atlanta and won 2. They haven't even won. They haven't won a lot of games on the road. Of course, they haven't won a lot of games at all. They're nearly at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and yet they have gone on the road and won 2 in Atlanta. I know Ben Rogers has definitely got to be having a blast right now, but major shouts out to you. Now, I want to also bring up something that the Atlanta Hawks are dealing with. And again, I've said it before, it's the injury bug. I mean, tonight's game was so interesting because you had no Jalen Johnson, and this was because he injured his other shoulder on Thursday night. Yes, Jalen Johnson, of course, we know that he had, right shoulder inflammation, and they had him out for a good amount of time, but he came back last Thursday or this Thursday versus the Toronto Raptors in that loss versus the Toronto Raptors. But then, of course, he ended up leaving because of an injury to that shoulder. Something happened on the court. I think it wasn't a bad contact or nothing that was ugly or whatnot. But once it happened, he knew that he had to go. He had to get out of the game, and it was going to be an issue. But no Jalen Johnson for this game tonight. Of course, no DeAndre Hunter. He's sick with an illness. Larry Nance, he returned from his hand injury that he was out for, I think, about a week or so. And then he re-injured his hand in the third quarter. No Zaccharie Risacher, left hamstring injury. Kobe Buffkin is out for the season. I mean, I can continue on here. These guys have definitely gone through it. The Atlanta Hawks have definitely gone through it. And as you can see, this has just been a tough season so far, and they're trying to find ways through it. Injuries definitely do not help at all. And then finally, again, it's been a rough week. It's really been a rough week for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, again, losing to New York in New York on Martin Luther King Day. Then you turn around, you lose to the Pistons on Wednesday. You turn around and then you lose to the Raptors on Thursday. And then you fall to the Raptors again today. Now, I mentioned all of that prior to this, but dig this. They fell below 500 again. So now they're at a 22-23 record. They also fell to the number 9 seed in the East. They were at one point the number 6 seed. As a matter of fact, going into the game versus the New York Knicks on Martin Luther King Day, they were actually the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And we were all talking about that we might be looking at this team a different way, and there could be a new, a sleeper team. You even heard Chuck and L. Duncan from ESPN speak on the Atlanta Hawks and saying how they could be a sleeper team or a team that nobody would like to see in the Eastern Conference playoffs or whatnot. But right now, as the team sits right now, we're definitely dealing with a major injury bug, and this is going to be something that is really going to be tough. And if they're not able to get it together, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle going into the rest of the season. Now, we do have the Timberwolves, the Atlanta Hawks. They travel to the Timberwolves next game, and it doesn't get any easier. It does not get any easier for the Atlanta Hawks. And again, like I said before, if they don't find a way to get their act together and get things in order, it's gonna be a wrap. I'm gonna pull up the Atlanta Hawks schedule right now because again, they go up to Minnesota, play Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. And then on top of that, after the Minnesota game, the Atlanta Hawks, they do return back home, and they will be taking on, if I can pull it up really quickly, the schedule for the Atlanta Hawks. Here we go. So, of course, again, like I said, they go to Minnesota, taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then they come back home, and then they take on a makeup game versus the Houston Rockets at 7:30 here. And then, of course, they go on the road again on Thursday, January 30th, and they will be taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is a big game because it's a primetime game, and it's also going to be on TNT. So right now, the Atlanta Hawks, they definitely need to find a way to get things in order and get back on track because, again, it's been tough so far. And I don't see it getting any easier for the Atlanta Hawks. But with all that being said, my name is Walter Pollard. This is the Atlanta Hawks Digest. Listen, stay tuned and stick with us. Make sure that you hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Send this to as many people as you want to. And if you are a Hawks fan, you are definitely welcome here. Again, it's going to be a tough road ahead, but hopefully the Atlanta Hawks can get it together. I'm out. Peace.